Hey babe, welcome to Baseball for Girls, where baseball meets soft girl energy. I'm Shaughnessy, and here we do baseball with heart, humanity, and a little humor. So, whether you're brand new to the game or deep in your baseball era, you're in the right place. So grab something cozy and settle in, and let's get into today's episode. Let's play ball. Hey babes, welcome to another episode of Baseball for Girls, and today we're going to go through the weekly recap from last week. So it'll be April 6th through April 12th, 2026. So last week was pretty interesting. I feel like tensions were high. We had some fights break out and almost break out last week. So that was really interesting. We had a lot of sweeps during the weekday and the weekend series. So we're going to go through that. So for last week, the Orioles swept the White Sox, so that's not terribly surprising. The other sweep was with the Rangers, so the Rangers did sweep the Mariners. Unfortunately, I'm also a Mariners fan, so it was definitely hard to watch. The Rangers have definitely been on a tear. They also swept the Orioles recently, the week before, so they've been doing pretty well. The Rockies, they actually swept the Astros. Super surprising. The Rockies have actually been doing pretty well. They are 6-10, so they've had 6 wins and 10 losses, which, I mean, I guess doesn't sound that great, but the Rockies, I feel like that's a pretty good start for the Rockies. The other team that had a sweep last week was the Twins. They swept the Tigers. The Twins have also been doing pretty well. They have won 9 and have lost 7 games. And so they're also trying to get warmed up. Over the weekend, there were a couple of surprising sweeps. Namely, the Athletics swept the Mets, which was the first time in franchise history for the Athletics. They've never swept the Mets before. And the Nationals, they swept the Brewers, and that's the first time that's happened in 15 years. So the Nationals and the Athletics are definitely teams to look out for. They're some of the teams that you don't really think about as being super good. So, like the White Sox or the Nationals, Athletics, or like the Rockies, you don't really always think of them as being like those top teams or like a team to be afraid of when they come to your town. But the Athletics, they're stepping up, and the Nationals, they're stepping up their game. I did get a chance to watch one of the Nationals games, and Abrams, he's definitely super good. That one of those games, he tried to hit it, like there was a bases loaded situation and he grounded out, and then that ended the inning. But then the next time he got up, he had a solo home run. So, and I think that was a part of how they were able to win that game too. So they are a bit of a sneaky bunch. You definitely have to watch out for them. Don't count them out too early in the game. They seem to have to come back a lot of the times. They don't score very early, but they really attack the other team's bullpen. So that just means that once the other team's starter, so the other team's starting pitcher comes out of the game, which is around between like the 5th and the 7th inning, like the starting pitcher is usually removed from the game, and then the bullpen, so the relieving pitchers will come in. And it seems as though the Nationals have been doing really well in those later innings when you're facing a different pitcher than the starting pitcher. Because remember, like, your starting pitcher is one of your best pitchers. Like, you want them to start the game so that you can have a good chance of winning. The Padres swept the Rockies, which, kind of sucked after the Rockies just swept the Astros. So, maybe they were just tired. They were a little tired. They, the Rockies had swept the Astros at home, and so then the Astros had to go to San Diego, which is not really that far. So maybe they were tired. And that actually was a 4-game series over the weekend. And and when the Twins swept the Tigers, that also was a 4-game series. So that's even more impressive when you win 4 games in a row against a team. And the Rays also swept the Yankees this past weekend. Glorious. The Yankees have been struggling a little bit. They have 8 wins and 7 losses. And they've been on a bit of a losing streak. It seems they've definitely at least lost those past 3 games, and they lost to the Athletics. I'm looking at my notes here. During the week, they played the Athletics, and they lost that series to the Athletics. So the Yankees have lost 5 games in a row. So they are trying to break that losing streak today. I guess not today. They don't play today, which is April 13th. They play tomorrow, and it'll be the Angels versus the Yankees, so they'll be playing at home. So they're definitely hoping for some of that home field advantage, because when they were swept by the Rays, they were playing at the Rays Stadium Tropicana. So they're probably hoping that they can come back and win a game. So those were the most interesting sweeps. So last week, during the weekday series, the Dodgers won their series against the Blue Jays. The Cubs won their series versus the Rays. The Guardians won their series against the Royals. The Padres won their series against the Pirates. So that means that the Padres were actually on a 5-game winning streak right now. The Cardinals won their series against the Nationals, and the Red Sox won their series against the Brewers. Let's take a beat to talk about the Red Sox, though. They have definitely been struggling over the start of this season, but they were able to win the series against the Red Sox. They were able to win the series against the Brewers, and they were able to win their series against the Cardinals this past weekend. So they are trying to get warmed up and really come back. I mean, it's the Red Sox, there's high expectations for this clubhouse, always. And so they really are trying to live up to that. The Braves won their series against the Angels, and the Giants won their series against the Phillies. And the D-backs won their series against the Mets last week as well. The Reds and Marlins split their 4-game series that they had last week. And like I mentioned, the Twins swept the Tigers in their 4-game series last week. And then over this past weekend, the Orioles won their series against the Giants. So the Giants had won their series against the Phillies at home, but then when they traveled to Baltimore, they realized that the O's are not a force to be reckoned with, okay? And then the Dodgers won their series against the Rangers. Definitely loved to see that after the Rangers swept the Mariners earlier in the week. So loved that. Also, I love the Dodgers too. And the Pirates won their series against the Cubs. The D-backs won another series against the Phillies. So they won their series against the Mets during the week, and then they came back and won against the Phillies over the weekend. So the D-backs are doing pretty well. The Twins won their series against the Blue Jays. They lost the first game, but then they won the last 2. So the Twins won, let's see, 4, 5, 6 out of the 7 games from this past week. The Guardians lost their series against the Braves. It was actually a pretty interesting, well, I guess it wasn't really that interesting of a game, but the Braves versus Guardians, or Guardians versus Braves game was the prime time game for Sunday night, and the Braves really, they won by a lot, so it ended up being a 13-1. So the Guardians didn't have a good night last night, but we know overall the Guardians are pretty good. They did win their series against the Royals earlier in the week. And in general, we know the Guardians to be a good team. They've won 9 and lost 7 games as of today. So we're not terribly worried about the Guardians, but it's always hard when your game is the primetime game on a Sunday night, what everybody's going to be watching. It's not just on like a local channel, like it's a broadcasted channel, and then you get pummeled like that. I'm sure Guardians fans were not happy with that. But it was a Braves game. It was at Truist Park. So I always like it when the home team wins, at home. Because I know what it feels like to be the home team and your team is losing, and it's just really sad. So good for them. Let's see. Like I mentioned, the Red Sox won their series against the Cardinals. The Tigers swept the Marlins. The Angels won their series against the Reds. And like I mentioned before, the Athletics swept the Mets. So those are all the games from the past week. Some interesting things that happened during the week. So at the beginning of the week, when the Reds won 4 games in a row, that was their best 10-game start in a really, really long time. Jose Ramirez, who plays for the Guardians, has played 1,620 games, and that was as of last Monday. So obviously now he has even more, but that was their franchise record. So no one else in a Guardians uniform has played that many games. And like I was mentioning with the Nationals, on Monday, the Nationals had the biggest comeback so far this year. So the Nationals last week, they were playing the Cardinals. And even though they lost that series, they won that game 9-6. I don't think I watched the entire game, but I remember watching that game on MLB Big Inning. So I was, watching it as much as they allow you to watch it. I'm pretty sure that game was 3-6. Like the Nationals had 3 and the Cardinals had 6. And then they came back, like I was talking about earlier, they came back in the last couple of innings, and they had one inning where they scored 6 times. I believe it was either the 8th or the 9th inning where they scored 6 times, and so then it forced into the bottom of the 9th, and the Cardinals ended up losing. So the Nats are not a force to be reckoned with either. You gotta watch out. You really do. I also wanted to mention some of the interesting things that kind of happened over the week. So like I said earlier, tensions were running a little bit high. There's one fight that broke out, and that happened during the Braves versus Angels game last week. So that was a Wednesday game. Like I mentioned, the Braves did win that series against the Angels. And on that Wednesday, Jorge Soler hit a home run. So the score for that game was Braves 7-2. And Soler homered off of Ronaldo Lopez, in that first inning. And then in his next at-bat, he was hit by a fastball by Lopez. And in the 5th inning, Soler ended up charging towards the mound because Lopez threw another ball at him that like went right past his head. and it kind of looked like he was intentionally trying to hit him. So they kind of had like this stare down for a moment, and then all of a sudden Soler starts walking towards Lopez, and they start fighting in the middle of the game. It was very interesting to watch. I was watching it live. I looked away for like a minute, and I look back, and they're like, everyone's rushing onto the field because a fight just started. I think that, we're living in a different time where fighting is not as cute as it was, back in the 1900s. Like, that was definitely something that went on a lot. So that was interesting. And then another time that something happened was with Wilson Contreras. So he plays for the Red Sox. He has been hit 121 times in his over 10-year career, and 24 of those times have been by the Brewers. So, like I mentioned, the Red Sox won their series against the Brewers, and during one of those games that they won, Wilson Contreras was at the plate, and he was hit by the pitcher Woodruff, and that was the 6th time, like, in their careers that Woodruff had hit Contreras. And he has been hit 24 times overall by Brewers pitchers. So Contreras is a little bit fed up, to say the least. He ends up going on to talk to the media because, they asked him about it after the game. And he said, "They always say I'm not trying to hit you. That gets old. So next time they hit me again, I'm going to take one of them out. That's a message." I don't know if you're allowed to threaten people in the media, but nothing's happened to him, so I guess it's fine. But, it makes sense, like, you feel like someone's trying to hit you intentionally all the time, especially with one specific pitcher or just one specific team, like, you are constantly getting hit by them. It makes sense to be upset about that. But they didn't end up in a fight or anything, but Contreras did have some words after that. So then, like with the Soler-Lopez situation, there was a suspension. They were both kicked out of that game after that fight, and they were given a suspension, and they had to pay an undisclosed fine. Both of them appealed their suspension, and so then while it's an appeal, they can still play. So the next day, Soler hits a home run in his game. And so I was like watching it, I was like, well, good for him, but also isn't he supposed to not be playing? And a few minutes later, the announcer did mention that he had filed for that appeal, and he was allowed to play. So very interesting that kind of thing can happen. So, what do you think about hit by pitches? Back in the day, like, if someone got hit by a pitch by the pitcher, that just meant that the next person, when the teams switched sides, and the other team's pitcher was on, that first batter was definitely going to get hit as well, just as like a payback kind of thing. Or there would be a fight that would break out or something. Like, there would be some sort of action that we don't say is okay anymore, but that used to be completely acceptable back in the day. So in my opinion, I think, we should try to not fight. But whenever I'm watching very, very old games, and in one inning, one pitcher hits the batter and they, just kind of take it. And then the next inning, the other pitcher hits that team's batter. And then they're just like, okay, we're even. If that's how they want to play, then that's how they want to play. And then that way it feels resolved, I guess, for both teams. Like, okay, we both hit someone, so now we feel even, But I don't know. Honestly, they should just try not to hit anybody. Just don't hit anyone, and it'll be fine. But it can be tricky. I'm sure it's hard to throw a ball 100 miles per hour and not hit someone that's standing in front of you. And so those are the two main things that happened last week that I thought were really interesting. And so overall, I think this is a very good season so far. I mean, there's been a lot of surprising sweeps and teams that are really getting hot, and the teams that are cooling down, like the Yankees. We thought that they were going to be super hot for the first part of this season, but we're not even through April and they're already cooling down. So we'll see what happens. So thanks for tuning in for another episode of Baseball for Girls. I'll be back again next week with another recap of this week that's coming up. I meant to mention the Astros are playing the Mariners in a 4-game series that started on Saturday that ends today. So I didn't have the score for tonight's game, so I don't know if the Mariners are going to sweep or they're just going to win this series, but they already have won 3 out of the 4 games. So either way, the Mariners have definitely won this series. So tonight, they're looking for a sweep. But all right, thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye. Oh my gosh, wait. So, hey babes, thank you for tuning in for another episode of Baseball for Girls. I probably forgot to plug the things that I'm doing, including my Instagram, so I just wanted to come back here and plug all my little things really quick. So my Instagram is baseball4girls_, and I just kind of post on there whenever I upload a new episode. I also have a baseball score tracker. It has about 40 weeks in it, and it has like some notes sections so that you can also keep track of games throughout the week. I use it for Major League Baseball games, but you can also use it for minor league games, your kids' games, your friends that are playing baseball, whatever. It's really just a nice way to keep track of all the games and the scores from each game, especially since baseball is typically played in series. So you should check that out. It's just called Baseball Score Log, and it can be found on Amazon, and it's only $9.99. I also include how I personally keep track of games as a little bit of an instruction guide on the first couple of pages, so you can keep score like the same way that I do. Also, I am in the process of writing a ebook, so it'll be a Baseball for Beginners ebook that I have been working on for the past couple of weeks. It'll just kind of walk through the rules of the game, how to watch it for the first time, and just give you a general idea for how to understand baseball from a very, very basic perspective. So I'll definitely let y'all know whenever that is available. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch y'all next time. Bye.